Hello, everyone. Welcome to our TED Talk on the evolution of the English teach. Tonight, we're going to take you on the journey through the different phases of the English language education, exploring how methods have changed over the decades and how this change have impacted both the teachers and learners. Join me are two state colleagues who have witnessed and participated in this transformation firsthand. Álvaro and Heidi. Let's drive and rating. Let's start by going back in the time. Heidi, do you have studied the early method of English teaching extensively? How was English taught in the past?
Internally, Tamara, English teaching began with very traditional methods, and the most prominent one was the grammar translation method, which has been around since the 19th century. This method focuses on reading and translate text. Students have to memorize large amounts of vocabulary and grammatical rules, and often without much context or practical application. And the goal was to help students read and translate literally text, not necessary to speak or communicate in the language. And I have found that this method were used primarily because they mirror the classical education model, where Latin and Greek were taught in a similar way.
It sounds quite different from what we see today. Álvaro, have you ever used any of these traditional methods in your teaching?
Yes, I have. Especially when I first started teaching, I was trained in the grammar translation method, and I remember feeling somewhat limited by it. The focus was so heavily on accuracy that it didn't leave much room for communication. I had to follow the textbooks closely, and the students were required to translate long passage and write essays, but there wasn't much emphasis on speaking and listening.
Yes, and I was just about teaching vocabulary. The cultural context was often ignored. For instance, students learning phrases like "How do you do?" without really understanding when or why they will use such a phrases. It was uncommon for students to be able to translate Shakespeare, yet struggle to ask for direction in English.
It's interesting to see how the focus has shifted over the time. Did you ever feel that these methods were effective for students?
Mm, to some extent, yes. They were effective in teaching students to read and write. But when I came to speaking, there was a clear gap. Students often found themselves unable to hold a basic conversation, even after years of study. This have been one of the major criticisms of the grammar translation method.
Fast forward to the 1970s and the 80s, and we see the major shift and how English has been taught. Haiti, how did this change the way teaching approach language education?
The shift was spread by a growing recognition that students needed to actually use the language they were learning. This led to the rise of the communication approach. This method mean interaction as both the means and the ultimate goal of language learning a language. And teachers starting to focus on speaking and listening activities, for example, role plays and group work. And another ideas was to immerse students in real life situation where they will need to use English spontaneously. I have seen this approach make a big difference in how quickly students become comfortable speaking English.
I have experienced that shift too. When I first introduced communicative activities in my classroom, it was challenging. Students were not used to speaking so much, especially in English, but over time they grew more confident and began to enjoy these activities. For instance, I remember organizing a mock shopping activity where students had to buy and sell items using only English. It was a hit. The students loved it, and more important, they learned a lot.
And this has been supported by research. Studies have shown that students retain information better when they use in a meaningful context. For example, when students practice asking for direction in English, they are more likely to remember those phrases and use them confidently in real life.
So it sounds like the communicative approach has brought a lot of benefits, but were there any changes that came with this shift?
Definitely. One challenge was the resistance from both teachers and students who were used to the old ways. Many teachers had been trained in the grammar translation method and found it difficult to translation to a more interactive styling of teaching. Also, some students struggled with the increased emphasis on speaking, especially those who had been taught to focus on accuracy rather than fluency.
That's true. Another changes has been the need for more resources. The communicated approach requires a lot of materials, visual, audio recordings, and so on. In some places, especially in developed countries, these records have always been available. This has sometimes limited the full implementation of the approach.
As we move into the 21st century, technology has revolutionized the way that English is taught. Alvaro, how have you integrated technology into your teaching?
Technology has indeed become a game changer. I have started using various digital tools to enhance my lessons. For example, I have incorporated online platforms like Duolingo and Quizlet to help students practice vocabulary and grammar outside of the class. These platforms have been great for reinforcing what we cover in the classroom. Additionally, I have used video conferencing tools like Zoom to connect students with native English speakers around the world. This has provided them with real life practice that was unimaginable just a few decades ago.
And it's not just about the app and platforms. I have explored using virtual reality in the classroom. With virtual reality, students can immerse themselves in English speaking environments. Whether is taking a virtual tour of London or participating in a simulated business meeting. This has allowed them to practice their language skills in a safe and controlled environment, which has been incredibly beneficial.
It sounds like the technology has opened up new possibilities of language teaching. But what about the changes? Have you faced any obstacles in integrating technology?
One challenge has been ensuring that all students have access to the necessary technology. In some cases, students don't have reality internet access of the device they need to fully participate in digital activities. This has highlighted the digital divide that skills exist in many parts of the world. I have had to find creativity solutions like providing or filling reconciling or creating more traditional activities that can complement the digital ones.
Yeah, and another challenge has been the learning curve for both teachers and students. Not everyone is comfortable with technology, and it can take time to learn how to use new tools effectively. I remember the first time I introduced an online collaborative project. It was a bit chaotic, but with patience and practice, both the students and I have become more adept at using these tools.
Okay, it's so good. Indeed, the integration of technology has brought both opportunities and changes. As we look to the future, where do you think English teaching is in it? What have they learning from the past that will guide forward?
The future of English teaching will continue to be shaped by technology, but with an increased focus on personalization, and we have seen how different students have different needs, and technology allows you to tailor or teaching to individual learning styles. For example, adaptive learning platforms can adjust the difficulty of exercise based on how well a student is performing. This has the potential to make language learning more efficient and effective.
I agree, but I also think we will see a return to some of the fundamentals that have always been important in language teaching, building relationships, creating a supportive learning environment, and focusing, or meaningful communication. No matter how advanced our tools become, these elements will remain and the core of good teaching.
So it seems that while technology has changed to the landscape of the English teaching, the human element remains essential. As we move forward, we must remember to balance these two aspects. Heidi and Alvaro, thank you so much for sharing your insights today. And to our audience, thank you for joining us on this journey through the evolution of English teaching. See you the next time. Bye bye.
See you. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thanks so much.